I think we have to find out what Mrazek is, both for this season and for next season. So, because as it stands now, if we can assume things are going to go the way they probably will, Campbell will be playing for another team next year, and Peter Mrazek will be the starting goalie for the Toronto Maple Leafs if he's healthy.
Wait, hold on a second. So you think Campbell's gone?
I don't think he's gone. Then you can't keep both of them. Like the Leafs can't have Mrazek at what he's making and Campbell at what he's going to demand. We can't pull that off cap wise. And even like logistically, you wouldn't want that. So then I take a step back and say, is it possible to trade Mrazek? If you can trade Mrazek, you can probably make it happen. But is that possible? Will a team take a shot on him? And maybe that's why this stretch is so important as well. Add it to the list. If he plays well over the last, there's 50 games left. I can't believe that 50 games left. If he plays well during the second half of the season, maybe someone's interested. They'll take a flyer on him. He's only got 2 years.
Edmonton Oilers, perhaps.
That's the one I've thought of, Bruno. Kenny Holland, Mrazek, the connection there. Try to figure something out there. But either way, he's got to play. Whether it's for us or to show him off to someone else, this guy has to be found out with regard to what he is and what he can be relied on to do. And it would be, heck, I'm all here for it. I'm here for a goalie controversy. If he wants to stand on his head and be great, and we all expect Campbell to have some negative regression, if he wants to be the man during the second half of the season, and we have 2 solid goalies, it's a good decision to have to make. It's a good problem to have, as they say. So I hope it happens. Mrazek hasn't convinced me yet, but again, as a fan, I can really, really hope that we get to that point. And again, to calm my nerves a little bit, if we can't pull off a deal with Campbell / trading Mrazek, at least we know that going forward, we have a legitimate starting goalie.
Yeah, it is beyond imperative for this team to get Peter Mrazek going. You nailed it, man. I'm looking at his game log. This game against the Islanders was the first of 5 games this season where he had a save percentage over 900.
There you go.
That's sad.
Not good.
But there's one thing that I know about Peter Mrazek. When this dude gets hot, he gets really hot. And there's moments where he's going to have tough stretches. I noticed playing on Carolina the last few seasons, like there's stretches where this dude is unbelievable. And then there's stretches where, like we saw, where he has a save percentage under 900. They need to get him going. For him to only play 5 games to this point, the Leafs have played 38 games this season. If you told me at the start of the season, after the Leafs signed Peter Mrazek to a 3-year contract worth $3.8 million a season, that through 38 games, he would only have 5 starts at this point, I would have told you were insane. Yeah. Or I would have said he probably got injured at some point, which he did, because he's been injury prone in his career.
Yeah.
But they got to get him going, especially with Jack Campbell leaking a little bit recently. And again, we talked about this earlier in the season. Jack Campbell was not going to maintain a 940, a 935 save percentage. That's almost impossible nowadays over a full season, unless you have the season of your life. So with Jack Campbell struggling, and, the Leafs have had some time off here to recharge. I mean, first, you had COVID and the holiday break and more COVID stoppages. But now the Leafs last week, they only played a couple of games. This past week, only 2 games against the 2 New York teams. This week, they're only playing 2 games as well. So you have 4 games over a 2-week span. Hopefully it gives a chance for these goaltenders, to rest up a little bit, to refocus. And I would assume we're going to see Mrazek play one of the games this week. I mean, maybe he's going to play both. That remains to be seen. But they got to get this guy going, man. Because like you said, Lepore, if they can get him going and showcase him to some other teams, maybe they can unload that contract. Because if Campbell ends the season as a top 3 candidate for the Vezina Trophy, he's going to command a pretty sizable contract. Like, what do you think Campbell is going to be asking for in his next deal?
If he finishes as a Vezina candidate.
Yeah, so even if he doesn't win the Vezina, let's say like Shesterkin wins the Vezina, Campbell finishes like 3rd in Vezina voting.
I'd be shocked if it was under like 6'5".
Really, eh?
At the end of the day, Bruno, and because I always say it takes one team. If you're Campbell now and you're his agent, why would you not test free agency? And if you do, it takes one team. We just talked about the Oilers. What would they not give Campbell? And when the Leafs won't be able to match it, and it takes one team, and maybe he would take a discount to stay in Toronto if we can pull it off. But even then, I mean, it can't be under 6, Bruno. Like seeing what these goalies are getting. And if we look at like the timing of contracts, I mean, you hate to point to bad contracts, but like Matt Murray got 6+.
Good
coming. And that's more my point in the way that you had a team in Ottawa, and I'm not going to call them desperate, but they really wanted a starting goalie to help their rebuild. So they overpaid, and they probably even knew at the time they overpaid, but they just wanted that out of their minds. We have a starting goalie, and it didn't work out for them, but he got that money. And Campbell, and that's Murray coming off 2 average to below average seasons. If Campbell's coming off a Vezina Trophy nomination, man, there's going to be someone stupid. It wouldn't even shock me if someone gave him something absolutely crazy. You look at these deals around the league for goalies, like Brizgalov, those deals like back in the day where like teams were desperate. But
even recent history, the Bobrovsky deal.
The Bobrovsky, yes, hashtag Russians. But yeah, teams that are desperate, who really want a goalie, who just want that calmness from it. And it's tricky because I'm the first one to say I don't think you should spend very much money on a goalie in today's NHL because the gap between an average goalie and elite goalie is not very much. So I'll pay for an elite goalie, but I won't pay double the price, if not more, for the elite goalie. But at the same time, I recognize the more emotional side of it for a GM and staff, just wanting that thought gone. We have a goalie. It's one position. We have a goalie who can win games. That's it. And if we sign him long-term, we sign him long-term. That's fine. And I understand that side of it. And it only takes one of those for Campbell. So I'd like to think he wants to sign in Toronto, but it's about money at the end of the day.
You would have thought Hyman would have liked to stay a Leaf. And I think he did want to stay a Leaf.
Oh, 100% Hyman. If there was no cap, Hyman would be a Leaf.
Financially, the Leafs just couldn't make it work.
Yeah.
And I
what's your number,
Bruno?
With
what Hyman did. Like that was his last opportunity to cash in. He's a 29-year-old coming off a very nice stretch of whatever you want to call it, 3 or 4 seasons playing with the Leafs, and he cashed in. And I think Campbell's in a similar spot. You have a 30-year-old goalie who was a former first-round pick, who's been a journeyman up to this point in his career, and at the age of 29, 30 years old, finally establishes himself as one of the best goalies in the NHL. It's going to be his best opportunity of his entire life to cash in on what he's done over the last couple of seasons and sign a long-term contract. So looking at it from Campbell's perspective, he would be insane not to chase the money to a certain degree. If the Leafs are coming to him and saying, listen, Jack, we can only give you $5 million, $5.5 million. You're going to have to take a discount if you want to stay with this team, if you want to make it work. But if he's getting, like you mentioned, Lepore, 6.5, or someone even offers him 7 on like a 4-year deal or a 5-year deal. If I'm Jack Campbell, I'm 30 years old. I'm coming off the best 2 seasons of my life. I would highly consider just chasing that contract, even if it's with a team that's not very good. And again, we don't know where his motivation lies. We don't know what makes him tick. We don't know how badly he wants to stay with this organization. But man, oh man, that's going to be tough for him to turn down if there's a team that's desperate, that's offering him a long-term deal at a really big number. If I'm Jack Campbell, man, I think I would chase the money. I really do.
I'll ask you this question, Bruno, because like you asked me what I thought the number would be. I'll ask you, say for the Leafs, where do you envision it? If say the Leafs could dump Mrazek, where would you guess that number will be? And something not really talked about because everyone's so focused on the number is the term. Because at the end of the day, let's say he does finish the season the way it started and he's great and he's a Vezina candidate. It's still only really 1 year. So would you be okay giving him a 3-year deal, a 4-year deal, a 5-year deal?
I think the most I would probably give him is 5 years.
Okay.
I think when you go over 5 years, especially with a goaltender, and you
Yeah,
said
I
it,
agree.
man, with how volatile the position is, and even just the difference between an elite goalie and, let's say, like the 13th best goalie in the league,
It's zero.
it,
Yeah.
it's not a big gap whatsoever. Like we could say, okay, Andre Vasilevsky, when he's at the top of his game, like he's an alien and he's probably the best goalie in the world.
Yeah. But
But when
even
you're going,
value wise, he's not that bad. If you look at what he's making, he's not making 11 million or something like that.
and that's another thing, right? With how smart I think the Leafs are at managing the cap, and you can make fun of them all you want, but if you look at the math, this team manages the cap better than almost any team in the NHL. And I don't think they want to put themselves in a position with all the money that they're dishing out to their elite players right now, having to give Jack Campbell some crazy number. I just don't think they would do that. I don't think they would allocate that much of the salary cap to the goalie position. I don't think they're
So
going to
what,
make that mistake.
so what's your number, Bruno? What
I think
number would you say if his agent put forward? You'd tell the Leafs sign it right now.
I would say I could see the Leafs going up to like 6 potentially.
Okay.
I don't think they're going over 7 million. I don't think they can
Okay.
afford to do that.
Okay. But then
And
it comes into
obviously,
play.
With
Go
the
ahead.
Mrazek contract in play and Nick Ritchie and some of the other moves they can make to unload some of those guys. But
I was gonna say, yeah.
man, you're getting into a tough spot if you're going to pay Jack Campbell. Even if you pay him like what you're giving Morgan Riley on his contract extension, like how on earth can you possibly make that work?
Yeah, because you're forgetting too. It's like even if they dump Mrazek, okay, well then they have a backup in the lineup. And even if it's like say Wall on an entry or somebody else at $1 million, I mean that's still money. And then you remove Mrazek, but then you get what Campbell's making now. So like numbers have to be crunched. Numbers really and truly have to be crunched to make it work. And that's why, like, if I had to guess, and it's not what I want Jack Campbell to sign with the Toronto Maple Leafs. If I had to guess, like you asked me before, if I thought it was a done deal, he was gone. I wouldn't bet on it happening because so much has to happen for it to work out. They have to be able to get rid of Mrazek. They may have to free up other monies. Maybe it's Richie or whomever, or maybe a deal they don't really want to get rid of. Plus the discussions of, is it worth giving this goalie whatever he's demanding? There's a lot of moving parts. So I'm not optimistic, to sum it up.
Yeah, then we're going to get into the situation where people start talking about unloading one of the core four.
Oh my God.
How would it
Bruno,
look like
why'd
if
you have
Marner's contract was unloaded or Nylander? Then we're going to get into all that. So,
Bruno, you just totally scripted what's going to be the take next season. If Campbell walks, it's because Marner makes too much. That'll be the complaint for everyone. So thanks for sticking that in my mind, Anthony Bruno.
it's coming, Lepore.
It's coming, man.
It's coming, man.